Welcome everybody, Jason Rosen here with of course Troy Opperley, the enzyme genius, and we are here to start an awesome series that we're really pumped to bring to you guys to really help you understand how much thought, how much care, and you know just real genius goes into the products that we try to create for you guys. So Troy, why don't you kind of take it away and tell us a little bit about not only the main player in this guy, which is protease of different types, but what makes our types of protease so different, and what are the things that our docs need to watch out for while they're sifting through the muck and the mire and the minefields out there.
Yeah, great question. So I always like to start with the broad perspective to begin with. So we talk about, proteolytic or systemic enzymes. So the broad category here is just enzymes that are taken away from food on an empty stomach. That gives the body the ability to let the enzymes pass through the digestive tract into the small intestine and be absorbed. This is where they do most of their work, is throughout the circulatory system. So they're going to visit the organs, the tissues, the muscles, all of that area of the body. So that's kind of the general place we're going here. And then if we look at the history of systemic enzymes, it obviously begins with Wobenzyme. So we do want to kind of just stop and take a brief look at Wobenzyme and their formula specifically. So, and again, it's when you go back to these researchers, I mean, the guys that created this stuff, I mean, they were German, they were very particular. In fact, they even own the animals that they extracted the different animal-based enzymes out of. So there was nothing left to chance with these guys. Now you fast forward 60 years, I go, that company has traded hands twice in the last 2 years. It's owned by a multinational conglomerate. Are they as careful and particular? Absolutely not. So I mean, I'm just going to give you a quick example. So with just pulling up their label here, so 3-tablet dose. If you break it down to 1 tablet, you're looking at 18,666 units of protease that's going to be derived from pancreatin, which of course, is the animal-based enzyme. So right. If we look, one of the things I look at, pancreatin, why it's usually standardized at a 10x. So a 10x is equivalent to 250 USP per milligram. So all I do is divide we'll just divide the total amount. So on the label, it says 56,000 USP units of protease per 3 tablets. So if we divide that by 250 milligrams, which is, a 10x was the standard, comes out to 224 milligrams. On the label, it says 300 milligrams. So immediately in my mind, as an enzyme formulator and a supplier, I look and go, okay, if I was putting this together, yeah, I'm like, there's 76 milligrams missing. What is that? It's not enzymes. It must be a filler. It must be something. So there's a lot of, just like you mentioned earlier, murky waters. You're just not sure. And this is a great example that you go, yeah, there's 76 milligrams missing. So why would you, and again, the way this is, I mean, they're tablets. I mean, I'm not a big believer in enzyme tablets.
Yeah, we could do a whole webinar just on that.
Yeah, we'll skip that, but just from the heat and pressure are going to damage the enzymes. And then if you look under other ingredients, they have cellulose, which that's, plant fiber. They have a vegetable-based enteric coating. Well, I don't know, what that could mean a lot of things, right? Vegetable stearate, okay? Then natural vanilla flavor, okay? Don't know what that means. And then purified water. So yeah, anytime you're making a tablet, there's gonna be a lot of extra stuff in there. So
always.
Anyway, so and then the other, we'll skip over to one other kind of where most companies that are supplying these systemic proteolytic enzymes, is that they go to these proprietary enzyme blends.
Yeah, just the danger zone right there. It should just go off. Bing, 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 bing. Watch out.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so what it looks like on the label, is that they're just saying, proprietary enzyme blend, protease, bromelains, ratiopeptidase, papain, amylase. So
yeah, but how much?
Yeah, and then they'll usually say it's 500 milligrams per capsule. I'm like, okay, we'll get into that, but I mean, enzymes aren't measured by weight,
right?
They're measured by activity. So
by units and activity.
Very deceiving. So these formulas can be super, super expensive. But again, if you were to actually break them down like we did with the Wobenzyme and look at what's actually in them, and to a certain extent, we can do that by performing specific assays, you'll find that these are incredibly low activity enzymes. So there's a reason why they're not listing it on their label. So when we put our little project together here with, and we're going to be talking today about the Theraxym. So
Yep.
Theraxym is kind of our flagship product. So we're going to be just looking at why we did the things we did. And this is one of the reasons, because we want to be completely transparent. Everything is listed on the label or on our website. So we want you to compare this product to anything else that's out there, because you simply will not find anything this great.
I mean, there's just absolutely no doubt about it. The more I've been with you for like 2+ years now, and the more time I spend with you, the more I learn, and the more I realize how so many people know how important and beautiful enzymes are and what they can do, but how so many people just don't know how to make them properly. I mean, like you said, Wobenzyme's 18,000 units in one tablet. Like in this player right here, in just protease 1, we have 150,000 units in one capsule, and it's in a capsule. It's it's not damaged by the heat, the light, the pressure. So I mean, wow! I just can't wait to do to go through this player like piece by piece and pick it apart, and truly accomplish the mission that you have, which is to educate people about these things.
Okay, well, let's what's our next? We're just going to jump in and
Yeah, we're
take a
going to
look
jump in. Well, we should probably go through the label real briefly, and then we'll go into it slide by slide, ingredient by ingredient. So, Troy, I want you to kind of take us through the label real quick, and then point out the keys, like you said, one capsule dosing, activity units, and then we'll really dive into each one piece by piece.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the way an enzyme label should look, right? It gives you all the information you need. It tells you a lot right there. I mean, it's a 1 capsule dosage. That's nice. I mean, you're going to get a whole lot more compliance, with a 1 capsule than you would with, like you mentioned, 9 or 18 or more. Yeah.
People just can't wait to swallow those many pills, and especially in front of their friends, will tell them they're insane for taking so much stuff.
And then, of course, our signature 93 capsules per bottle. The vast majority of months have 31 days in them. So when these supplement companies are telling you they provide you a full month supply, that's simply a fiction. It's not true. So we do provide you with a full month supply and then some. And then jumping down into the main body of the supplement facts panel, yeah, you got, and this is and we'll get into this, but one of the little kind of hidden secrets that a lot of these companies do, and these aren't small companies, these are some pretty major players, will take a protease and list it as protease 1, 2, 3, and it's the same protease. They just assay it 3 different ways. They perform 3 different tests on it. It gives them 3 different results. They list those 3 different results.
And it's the same enzyme.
And it's 1 enzyme. So I'm like, okay, that's a really nice trick and really good marketing, but that's not what we're doing here. So when we go through these individually, I'll point that out and be very specific.
Right. One of my favorite things you ever told me is like, we'll save the secret recipe for the kernel.
Right. Yeah, it's not for enzymes. So
right.
Yeah, and then we just look again, the fact there's 10 different proteolytic enzymes. How many companies are producing a systemic enzyme with 10 different proteolytic enzymes? I don't know of one. And then also just looking at the players, right? Because it's kind of like, I know you're a big baseball fan, so it'd be like having, you're like the 10 greatest baseball players of all time on your team.
On one field. Satchel Paige on the mound, Babe Ruth over at first. I mean, Mickey Mantle in center. We're talking real deal.
Yeah. So this is at that level. So you go, all the big boys are here. I mean, serratiopeptidase, C-Pros S, bromelain, nattokinase, and then all the proteases. So we're going to go into depth in those. So again, everyone, we invited everybody, all the major players are here. And then another kind of secret, not really secret, but if you look, I mean, most of these companies are telling you that they don't add fillers. And this just, the vast majority of them do. They're just not telling you that. Just like we looked at the Wobenzyme formula, there's 76 milligrams of something in there, and it's not an enzyme. So on here, when we formulate these products, we don't want to put any fillers or anything extra in there. So what we looked at is like, what enzyme couldn't we add to every single one of our formulas, right, in place of that? So that would actually add something to the equation and work synergistically with the other enzyme. So, and what that is catalase.
Yeah.
So we could
Just a
do
monster. We could do 2 hours on that. We will cover
yeah,
it, but man, what a
yeah,
beautiful thing that stuff is. And
yeah.
then
So
Rutin, we're
absolutely,
gonna have some fun with that, and our
yeah,
next generation Rutin, and then of course our Astrozyme just takes it all to the next level. I mean, just gotta love it.
yep. So
All
anyway,
right.
so that's a
Yeah.
real quick at the big picture. Now we can just kind of jump in and look at each one of the enzymes.
Let's get down to
So
biz.
yeah, so protease 1. So like I mentioned with the other companies that are doing this kind of sleight of hand or little kind of smoke screen thing. So one way to kind of clear the smoke and get down to the real thing is if when these companies do that, you need to ask them, because each enzyme has a specific IUB number, which is the International Union of Biochemists have assigned numbers, and it's also now being combined with the EC, right, which is the European Union.
Yep.
So those numbers are now being recognized by both parties, which is great. So we'll give you an example, like it's a 3.2.1.1. So, and now all those things mean something. I'm not going to get into that at the moment, but like a 3 might differentiate it as an enzyme. A 4 might represent, like the second number might be recognize it as a carbohydrate or a protease, right? And then the next number will. So it's a very specific way to accurately depict each particular enzyme, so that way it narrows the field down. It'll tell you. So if you have that number,
given that transparency that's needed so much.
yeah, so if you have that number, I mean, it's essentially like having somebody's social security number. You can look them up and I go, that's unique to Troy, so you can look up all my information, find out everything about me from that one number. This is exactly the same thing about the enzyme. So with the protease 1, I mean, it has its own specific IUB number, so it is different than the other two, and we'll get into that. So with this one, we'll talk about it's Aspergillus oryzae source. So that means it's fermented from that fungi. This product is produced in Japan, and this is the workhorse. This, if you look across the board, and even in the digestive world, so digestive enzymes and systemic enzymes, this enzyme is found in every single enzyme product on the planet. I mean,
Yep.
this is the one that probably does 90% of the work in 90% of the formulas on the planet. So why that is? Because it has a very wide pH range. So it's stable in a pH from 4 to 10. So there's only a couple places in the body that are going to go outside of that.
Yep.
And it won't for very long. So that's why you'll see activity throughout the entire digestive tract, and also where it kind of gets really active, and it's where it's like, if you want to call it, its preferred pH is in 6 to 9. So now you're talking that's blood arena, right? I mean, blood is at right, 7.2. You go, well, this is pretty much at its peak activity, and it loves that environment. So is it going to produce great results? Absolutely.
Yeah, that pH range is like Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, all those boys in their prime. It's like right when they were at their best. That's a nice way to baseball reference it. And we have a measly 150,000 units per capsule of protease 1, which, man, I could go into 8 million clinical reasons why this is such a good thing. I mean, I encourage you docs to look this stuff up. If you look into crossing the brain-blood barrier, I mean, protease is one of the very few things that can actually do this, and that's why it's so critical for your brain and plaques and things like that, and getting the proteins that have crossed the brain-blood barrier because of EMFs and other things like that out of there, and stopping those awful things that happen to people when they get older, to genetically unwind into Alzheimer's and inflammation, lack of protein breakdown. I mean, we could go on forever, like what this thing can do. It cleanses the receptor sites of cells, for the thyroid, for all kinds of different mechanisms. It's just so good for like you said, it's the king. It's the king of the enzyme world. And like you said, it is a fermented form. But what people most don't understand is, yeah, the fermentation is just the process in which this guy is made, and then the enzyme is extracted through that process. So you're not consuming like a bunch of fermented, origins when you take this guy. It's just the enzyme that was made through that process, which is just another most beautiful thing that ancient cultures have been doing forever. Is fermenting things. I mean, the first supplement ever was an ancient culture fermenting things and knowing that they needed to drink them or eat them outside of their normal food because they needed extra enzymes, even in the ancient world. And man, look how messed up our food supply is today. I mean, wow. So
Yep.
anyway, I digress. Anything
No,
else?
no. So that's
Yeah.
and the last thing I'll just mention from the back end as far as the protease. I mean, it does like on a chain of peptides. I mean, it does do the exo and endo. So the inside and outside chains on that link, all those links, they're going to attack and cut and break those down. So again, it's just a very, very multi-purpose, wide spectrum enzyme. So wide pH range chops up, both ends of the chain. So yeah, very, very effective. And that's again why that's kind of the leading, enzyme as far as the activity, as well as that we want to make sure that it's going to produce a result.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. Okay, so this is going to get fun. Okay, now we're into protease 2, which I had no idea what this was until I met you. And then, of course, you went through the 3 different assays where people claim that they have this stuff. But why don't you just dive in a little bit to what this really truly is in its true form and, its benefits?
Okay, so again, we'll look at this is from a different source. So B subtilis. So that's the source from which it comes, and then it's also fermented in Japan, and this is also referred to as neutral bacterial protease. So like the B subtilis is more of a bacterial source versus a fungi. So that's why again this is important from the background of the perspective. So with this particular enzyme, it's going to work. Its main pH is going to fall between 6 and 9. So we just looked at that earlier. So you
Yep.
go, that's the absolute perfect
Blood type.
environment. Yeah. So again, that's hence the name, right? Neutral bacterial protease. So it works in that neutral pH range of where the blood is. So that's awesome. And then this one, what it does is it takes those like the shorter chains of peptides, right? If you want to call them polypeptides, and breaks them down into smaller chains of peptides as well as amino acids. So it's kind of
Oh,
on
man.
a smaller level. So like in some ways you could say like the protease will come along and cut the big piece into 3 smaller pieces, and then this one will take those 3 smaller pieces and chew it up into 18
Amino
smaller
acid.
pieces.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, yeah, it's so critical in the protein enriched world we live in that when you don't break these things, like you always tell me, it's not what you eat, it's what you absorb.
Exactly.
All right, shall we move on to number 3?
Yes.
Okay, protease 3, another mystery ingredient that I knew nothing about until I met you. And if you could take this one away, please.
All right, so this is another word or a commonly known name is alkaline protease. So this is the pH range here is from 7 to 10. So again, it's going to be very active in the blood because of the similarities in the pH. So this one is also derived from a different form, B. licheniformis, and it's also produced in Japan from a fermentation process. So, and again, like we mentioned, each one of these 3 enzymes will have its own specific social security number, which is called IUB or an EC number. So that differentiates. And then each one of these is like you'll notice on the first one, HUTs. I mean, that's a very specific assay. And then with these 2, they're both measured through the same assay, which is a PC method.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, I know we're getting really technical here, and we want to do this to truly teach these doctors about what these things really are, and so they can educate themselves on reading labels. I mean, this is just amazing, amazing information. So basically what we've just covered is these 3 different types of proteases basically have you covered in every pH range that you are going to see in the human body. And that is amazing, because when you look at the animal-based enzymes, I mean, their pH range is very tight, and more the traditional like plant-based ones, there's a little bit broader, but they don't break things down like these things do, these fermented ones. So it's just really cool stuff.
Yeah, and as we get into look at some of the other kind of superstar, rock star enzymes, there are lots of comparisons on PubMed that you can look at, and even in the research and studies that they're always, because they have to have something to compare it to. So they'll just say, oh, well, this is what this enzyme does, you know, and it does it 20% more effectively than trypsin or chymotrypsin, or, you know, this works much more effectively than pancreatin. So they're always comparing them to animal-based enzymes, which is great for us. So it's just reinforcing what we already know.
Right. I absolutely, yeah, just love it. I mean, the research that I've been doing just for the last 2 years, it's never ending. I keep finding more and more and more and more and more information. So before we get too deep into this, let's move on to our next systemic player that's in this guy. And I've read articles that are like the 40 top reasons to take serratiopeptidase or serrapeptidase. It's the same enzyme, so people don't know. So people know that there is no difference, but there is an actual huge difference, and that becomes the source. And I'd like you to touch on that, please, Troy.
Yeah, so this is critical, and mainly because enzymes have such a stellar history, 120 years, right, of serving the human race faithfully. So unfortunately, we had a small, glitch in 2014. So there was the first enzyme recall in the history of enzymes, and this was a worldwide recall. So, and it affected multiple industries, not just the dietary supplement industry. And the source of this was India. So India was producing some fermented enzymes, and the plate counts, the bad bugs, were too high. So they thought, how can we solve this?
Toss an antibiotic on there, right?
Let's put a synthetic antibiotic into the brew. It'll whack all the bad bugs, then we can export it out to all the countries and still make money. So I'm thinking they did that for a couple of decades. They got away with it. So finally, I think it was the animal feed industry or the pet. I think it was the pet food industry that was doing some testing and found traces of chloramphenicol in the enzyme, and it's like, whoa! So that suddenly just opened up the proverbial, Pandora's box. Right. They started digging into it, and the further they dug, I mean, the deeper the hole got, right? So it's just holy smokes. And so the end result of that is that nobody wants to buy any enzymes from India anymore.
Right.
So, and for good reason, right? I mean, it's not to say in another 20 or 40 years that, they'll have perfected their fermentation process and not having to do things like that. So, and the sad thing is with this particular enzyme, I'm gonna probably underestimate this, but 95% of this ratio peptidase products that are being sold in this country are sourced from India.
Yep.
So, and some of the things to look for with that, I mean, it's at least from a manufacturing and raw material supplier perspective, I mean, they're obviously micro issues. They're all over the board. So if you don't test these every time they come in, you will have issues, and you probably end up recalling your product. Two, it's the odor issue. I mean, this product it's nasty. It's got a serious stench to it, and it's just, if that's an indicator of something gone south, I don't know, but we've had it either way, so that's something to pay attention to. And then obviously the activity is all over the board. They can't standardize the activities very well. Right. So and again, from a manufacturing perspective, those things are all nightmares that you really don't want to deal with. So what we went back to the table and found a source that's obviously handled all these things. So there are no micro issues, no odor issues, and no activity issues. Stuff is clean. It comes from South Korea. So this is a country that's, known for its, computer and
rich history of technology, fermentation.
Yeah, just super advanced.
Ancient traditions and putting them into the new.
Yeah. So, so I would venture to say, and then this is the other piece of it. I mean, why do people continue to buy the enzyme from India? There's one answer here.
Probably money.
Money, right? So you can probably buy that enzyme for let's say $400 to $500 a kilo, depending on the quantity you're buying. So that's the only thing that's driving that market. So if you look in South Korea, the cost of that enzyme it goes up to like $750, $850, $950, depending on what. I mean, it's almost twice. It is twice as much,
right?
Depending on the quantity that you're buying. So most companies are simply not going to spend that kind of money. So, but again, from our perspective, this is so important that I do, and we might as well pull a plug here. I mean, I believe we were one of the only enzyme companies in the world that was not involved in the 2014 recall.
Right.
So we make sure that stuff is clean that we're bringing in and very conscientious in that way. So, but this is one of those things you go, I don't mind spending twice as much money knowing that I will never have to be involved in a multi-million-dollar recall situation.
Right.
Yep.
Or play some game where you're not quite sure.
Yeah. So
one of the things I love about our products is we don't ever put an ingredient into anything if there's even the slightest question mark. And that's what we're trying to drive home in this webinar. I mean, so many people know what the benefits of serratiopeptidase are, and we could do a whole other clinical webinar on that. But what we're trying to drive home here is, make sure you know where your stuff's coming from.
Right, and
you could hurt somebody. I mean, you got to understand the game. I mean, enzymes are amazing players, and they can, cut your supplements that you need to, carry in your clinic by like 75%, but you got to know what you're using, and you can't just go cheap, because if you go cheap, it's not going to work as often, if at all, and in the long run, you could hurt somebody.
Yeah, and the main thing is, like, you need to know your source. If you don't know your source, at least know the people,
right,
that you trust. Because going back to those other formulas we talked about at the beginning of the seminar, that it's, none of those companies manufacture their own products. I mean, they source them out to different companies, and most of the contract manufacturers in this country do not specialize in enzymes, don't know anything about enzymes. They're contract work. I mean, they're just simply going to source the cheapest thing, get it in there, and get it out, right, and make a dollar. So you can't fault them for that, but it's just simply because they don't
specialize in it, and it's not that they're bad; they just don't understand. All right, let's move on here to.
Well, but we want to talk just a minute about that, just the kind of the back end of that, because serratiopeptidase, has been around for many years, and it's mostly in Japan and Europe. And Dr. Hans Nieper did most of the preliminary research on that, and that dealt mainly with plugged arteries, right? Arterial plaque. That he was saying, hey, if you take this enzymes at a certain dose for 18 months, you'll completely clear your arteries. It's like, wow, so you can research that information on your own, but that was Dr. Hans Nieper, German doctor, scientist. And then as far as just moving forward, there's lots of research and study that you can just check out on PubMed. And again, it's an enzyme that's been around for a very long time and it's got a really big following.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many things it's good for. Obviously, like you said, plaque. Other things are awesome for plaque in the enzyme world, but scar tissue, and we're not just talking fibroids, keloids. We're talking like your liver is scarred to high heaven from the high fructose corn syrup you've been consuming. I mean, this is just a dynamite player to clear that stuff out, open up your bile veins, make your liver work better, get the the toxic, the environmental toxins that attach to incompletely digested proteins that are causing autoimmune type inflammation. It will dissolve those and then open up the body to detox it, or if it's an organism, it'll open up the immune system to find it and just take it down. So yeah, it's a great enzyme.
Okay, next.
All right, C-Pros. I mean, what a guy this is.
Yes, so this is the kind of rock star of all the enzymes, at least from my perspective. So it's also the oldest enzyme. So this was discovered, researched back in 1967 in Japan, 1980, after 13 years of taking their time and due diligence and research. The Ministry of Health in Japan actually approved this as an over-the-counter drug.
Yep.
So to this day, it's used extensively in Japan for, we'll get into if maybe we can just talk about it now, as far as, it's really deals with excess mucus in the body, and how does the body get, what mechanism does it have to get rid of that excess mucus? And this is one of those.
Yeah, it absolutely is critical for any upper respiratory issues, any kind of bladder problems, cystitis. Absolutely critical. And the most important reason why this is most important and critical now is biofilms, and being able to shed biofilms, which biofilms hide organisms inside them that can hide from the macrophage. They can get inside these things and exchange genes and make a plan to take your immune system down, and your immune system doesn't even know they're hiding. And this is the unhatcher. This is the unveiler. It will make sure that, oh, wow, your immune system realizes there's stuff going on. It's just a lovely thing. And because of the lack of digestion and overeating proteins and all the excess mucus and dairy, that we consume, we are just stricken with biofilms because of the modern day eating style. And without something like this, I mean, you will get disease. You will have problems, and your immune system will think everything's fine and not even know what's going on. And I love that this thing, this enzyme there's things that can break down biofilms without a doubt, but in my mind, nothing breaks them down better than this, and at an easier approach than this. Like, you can take 3 capsules of this, it'd be the same as just like pounding like countless amounts of herbs, antimicrobials, and you can just take like 3 of these guys, 6 if you're really sick, and it will unhatch these nasty buggers.
Yeah, and then kind of going back, some super important things to remember with this enzyme. It's the only enzyme on the planet that goes through a crystallization process.
Yep.
So that's why we got that in parentheses, crystalline.
It makes it 10 times more potent, correct?
Yes. So the activity is instead of being like 500,000 HUTs per gram, I mean, this is 2.5 million units of activity per gram. So we're only talking anywhere from 2 to 10 milligram dosages. So very small amounts required. And then also the pH range we talked about is between 5 and 9. So, with the peak being at 7, so you go, well, no wonder this is so effective, right? I mean, it's going to mimic or match the blood in that regard as far as that goes.
I love that.
Yeah, and the other unique thing about this, I mean, there's only a couple of enzymes on the planet that can say this, is that it's 100% enzyme. There's no carrier. And we'll talk about that, in a few slides here. So it's just 100% enzyme, crystalline form, super potent, super powerful. There's only one source, one place that makes it. That's it. It's in Japan.
Yep. And we could get into why it's so tough to make, but we'll save that for another chapter. Let's bounce to our next guy, which these are our enhancers to this formula.
Yeah, and then one last thing in the C-Pros, again, we talked about. So it mentions in one of the PubMed studies that it's 20% more effective than serratiopeptidase. So again, we're not saying that. We're just saying, hey, somebody's done the research, and it's it's worth the extra cost. And that's, I guess we'll talk about that for one last second, was just that enzyme is the most expensive enzyme on the planet, period.
Yep.
In fact, it's probably, I mean, it probably getting close to $4,000 a kilo. So that's, you know, the small dosages, but again, very, very expensive.
Serious
Okay.
player. All right. Sorry. Okay. So enhancers. Let's talk for pain.
Yes. So again, papain, very, very cool thing here again. So let's start with a source. So most papain is going to be coming from India. So again, it doesn't go through a fermentation process. And this is, most people don't know where papain comes from. They say, oh, it's from a papaya. So they just assume you grab the papaya off the tree, chuck it in a blender, and you got papain. That's not how it happens. So it's a very labor-intensive process. So once the fruit on the tree ripens to a certain point, they take a razor and they scar the outside edges or the outside of the body of the fruit. And then they put a cloth, not a cloth, but like a plastic sheet underneath the tree. This fruit will then drip this white latex, which is, that's what papain is. So it kind of, and they'll keep doing that to a certain extent. And of course, then they can't sell that fruit on the open market, so they'll use that for other industries. So again, super labor intensive, and most of it comes from India. So again, probably because of the you know, cleanliness and who knows whatever else, maybe just the stigma of what happened with the enzyme recall. But we do not source it from India. So the Republic of the Congo in Africa is where we source our papain.
Maybe we should go there and go take a look.
Yeah.
And have some fun.
Scope it out. Yeah, bring back some stuff firsthand.
Yeah.
Okay,
maybe
so
we'll find some sacred gold or something.
and then you know, papain has been around a long time. So again, you know, probably dating back to this, you know, probably even the 50s or even before that. So it's used in a lot of different industries, and there's a lot of research on this in regards to, you know, just swelling and helping the body, you know, its own natural healing response. And again, the pH range on this is 4 to 8. So you've got a pretty wide pH range. It's going to be active in the blood and, you know, throughout other parts of the digestive system. So it's kind of, again, one of those workhorse enzymes, and there's nothing added to this. So this is another one of those enzymes that's just 100% pure enzyme.
All right, let's move to this guy. All right, bromelain. I mean, it's hands down one of my favorite players. I mean, you could go into so many different things. There's been 1,600 articles, you know, on PubMed just about bromelain. Like, it does everything from ACL tears, it reduces allergies. I mean, next to DOA, which is a animal-based enzyme, it is the best player you'll find for histamine, arthritis, asthma. I mean, great player for any autoimmune disease, sinus infections, tendonitis. I mean, it is just renowned as one of the top playing enzymes on the planet. And, you know, Troy, why don't you kind of like let us know a little bit more about where we get this guy from, and let me know if I've missed something on it.
Yeah, what that key point there is that it's because of how effective and how that has traveled, that kind of common knowledge. It's put a great strain on the demand for this enzyme. So as we speak, it's in short supply, and that was also partly due. There was one of the main. There's probably like 3 main enzyme suppliers in the world, and they're either in Thailand or Indonesia. So they're normally, obviously, because the source of bromelain is the pineapple, so they're going to be situated next to a pineapple facility. So, you know, because in the old days, these pineapple facilities would strip the fruit off the pineapple, and then what did they do with the core and the stem? They chucked it. It was garbage.
Right.
So I go, so part of it is like, yeah, if I was going to open up a bromelain plant, yeah, I'd want to be right next to my source because I can get it free.
Right.
I just
Thanks
go
for the
empty
bromelain.
out. Yeah, just take, bring that dumpster over here. Just dump it right here, and then, so yeah. Again, the bromelain doesn't come from the fruit. I mean, yes, there may be some in that, but it's in the core and the stem, and that goes through an extraction process to get that out. So again, the stuff that we're getting is from Indonesia, and one of the things there is a facility that's in China that's pumping this stuff out, but they're doing it through, they're adding chemicals in the process. So in some industries, that's fine, right? I mean, if you're stripping something off of something, and it's more of a mechanical action, that's different. It's appropriate, but in the world of ingesting and human consumption, it's not. And that they've kind of crossed that line. So there's stuff that's being purchased, again, from a price perspective, that's not clean. So you really got to know this. I mean, this is super, super critical. So there may be, things you'll hear about in the future that, if this comes to light, that, you're not going to want to be buying from that source.
And then it'll get a bad name and all that kind of jazz that goes along with it. And it's just all about being smart enough to know what is really happening. And that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do here. And that's the whole purpose of our company.
Yep. So this is, again, one of the third enzyme, and the last one that's just a pure enzyme. There's nothing else added to it. It's just straight bromelain. That's it. And this, out of all the enzymes, I mean, this has the widest pH range. So it's really from 3 to 13, which is amazing. So there's really, maybe aside from the lower portion of the stomach, it's going to be active throughout the entire human body at any place at any time. So, and it also kind of zones in. What it really likes is the pH from 6 to 10. So again, a little bit more on the alkaline side, where it's going to be doing things in the blood. That's why you see all the studies and all the research, because it's perfect, for the blood.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, super awesome enzyme. So again, that's why it's in our formula, and the sourcing extra important on this one.
All right, peptidase.
Okay, so peptidase, we have, this is again a Japanese enzyme. Aspergillus oryzae is the source, and it's going to cleave different bonds on the the amino acid or protein chain, and it's also active. Its optimal pH range is 6 to 8. So couldn't find a better player to be working in the blood, and
nice peptide. Yep.
Yep, breaking things down. So
making things ready and available, and
yep. So that's kind of, we'll cut that one short, and then same thing with the next one is
this is what we need for amino acids, right? Yep. And then of course the bomb diggity nattokinase.
Yes. So
not from soy.
Right. So if we look again back to Dr. Sumi, who created and discovered this enzyme, a lot of things have transpired since then. So obviously there's a lot of fake nattokinase that's running around out there. Some of them under names like, well, it's kind of interesting. I got to be careful here. There's another company they're calling their stuff nattozymes or nattozyme, but it's not nattokinase. So be aware of that. If you see nattozyme on there, you go, that's not necessarily nattokinase. It could just be a blend of proteases. So, this wow. Dr. Sumi, because his original formula is patented, right? So it's, and it's a very specific amino acid sequence. So if you don't have that sequence, you don't have nattokinase. So a lot of stuff running around out there, obviously. Just got to be careful of that. So, and then the other thing that probably one of the most asked questions with nattokinase is, does it contain vitamin K2? Which it does. So in small quantities. So it's like 10 to 20 parts per million.
Well, that's not going to help your D3 uptake, is it?
So, there's not a lot in there, but again, with the K2, I mean, that kind of works on both ends of the spectrum, right? As far as, blood coagulation as well as blood thinning, it has components from both ends. So,
an absolute ace for peripheral neuropathy, calcification of anything from plaquing in your brain, plaquing in your arteries, plaquing in your kidneys, which is derived by a nanobacterial infection. With this player can shed the calcium off that hidden teeny little bugger that nicks up your arteries and allow the immune system to take it down. And of course, diabetes, this stuff will just balance your blood sugar like it's, magic. I mean, I've gotten so many people off, liver-based anti cholesterol drugs just with this. And of course, then you look at these blood thinners, and this is like the only time you have to be careful with enzymes is with these aggressive blood thinners. But if you can find a hematologist, cardiologist, medical doctor that is cool with dancing with you, you can work to use this guy alone to get them off these nasty things that are going to give them the bruising and the hellish life that will come with taking those for a long period of time.
Yeah. In fact, the guy that introduced nattokinase to America is a medical doctor. So that's Dr. Ralph Halsworth. So I mean, and he's written articles on that, and I know him personally and spent some time with him, and yeah, he has no problem. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Taking people off all those blood thinning medications and transferring over to nattokinase, and obviously doing the thing you need to do, but it's
and then you read this junk on Wikipedia where they're like, oh no, nattokinase it cannot replace warfarin, Coumadin. And what are they using? Like you said, they're using protease. They're not even using true natto. I mean, come on, do your study correctly, peeps. Let's go.
Yeah. So, because one of the most interesting things I always think is the kind of the marketplace. So when I don't know which, I think it was British Airways. So British Airways, there were some people that take those transatlantic flights, right? And they get off, and then they have some DVT issues, right, or the venous thrombosis thing, and then that clot, ends up in their heart or their head, and they die of a stroke.
Yeah, they're done.
Or heart attack, and then of course what happens? I mean, somebody sues the airline. So
doesn't hurt for mountain climbing either, does it, Troy?
So they put a challenge out to both the dietary supplement nutraceutical industry as well as the medical industry, and said, hey, we need a solution, right? We're tired of being sitting ducks and being a target for this issue. So is there something out there that can help all of our people that are flying with us? So and when it was all said and done, they came back, and nattokinase was the main ingredient. They call them flight tabs. In fact, if you go to PubMed, you can look that up. Super cool article. But here's a natural solution, right? That you go, no side effects. I mean, there's no damage that's going to be done. You just take it. It's safe. Boom, and you don't have to worry. You can sleep on the flight and get up 8 hours later and not have to worry about keeling over dead.
Yep. It's just like these enzymes have been sitting there just waiting and begging for people to discover them. And people have been using in these pitch patch ways, and they don't understand that they could use them for so much more.
Yep. So awesome enzyme. Again, going back to the pH range is where it needs to be, and then also the source of that. I mean, that's sourced from Taiwan.
Yep. Which we like Taiwan, don't we, Troy?
Yes.
All right, Top Today says, let's do a brief go over on this guy.
Yep. So same thing. It's a Japanese enzyme. A little different source. It's the same source as the super rock star Cipros S. So they use the same fungi, Aspergillus malleus, to produce this particular enzyme. And again, the active pH range on this one is going to be from 5 to 9. So it covers a lot of territory, and again, is going to act on the smaller peptides and break those down into amino acids.
Got to love that. All right, catalase, the bomb diggity antioxidant enzyme. Troy.
Yes, so we'll go back. Yeah, so this again is sourced. It's a fermentation process that's completed in Japan. And the main function of this, really probably the only function of catalase, is to take hydrogen peroxide, and then it just like bing, bang, boom, turns it into oxygen and water. So, and I believe this is the one, there's some conflicting stories, but I think this is the one where it does like X million number of chemical reactions per second, right? So it could break down
the most active enzyme, it's almost like it's timeless. It's moving like in a quantum field.
That's right. Because you go, how can this break like over 1 million bonds in a second. I mean, that would look like you broke a second down into 1,000 pieces. A
We should call
millisecond.
this,
It
we
would
should
be
call
breaking
this like Bruce Lee Alace.
yeah, because if you take your second, break it into 1,000 pieces, you have 1 millisecond, and then every millisecond it's breaking down 1,000 bonds.
I
It's like,
mean, why aren't people doing this?
yeah, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah,
So,
and by the way, it's in every single formula that we make. And we're gonna make a killer player with this guy at the forefront. Just wait.
yeah, yep, up and coming.
Yep.
So, and again, like you said, it's the antioxidant enzymes. So again, like hydrogen peroxide, I mean, in the world of, like if you're using that to clean something, I mean, it oxidizes things, right? So the catalysis is kind of meant to prevent oxidation or rust in the body.
Well,
So
it stops you
lots,
from aging.
yeah, the whole anti-aging thing. So super, super awesome enzyme, and the pH, 4 to 8. So there you
something
go.
that can like stand that much outside of time, I would really like to have this as my friend. As long as I like living here anyway.
Yes. So again, that's what we instead of filling up the capsule with MCC, cellulose, maltodextrin, you go, hey, let's throw in something
in there.
Yeah, let's put some catalase in there. So,
well, I love you, Troy.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Our first generation, soon to come our next generation, not to be understood. Let's talk rutin.
Yeah, so again, most people in the dietary supplement industry know this as a kind of like an antioxidant. And it also stems back. I have to give Wobenzyme credit for this. So 60 years ago, it was in their formula. And it is still in there to this day. So again, mainly an antioxidants, and it's a lot of times compared to quercetin or a lot of the other newer ones, but it's still
vitamin C absorption player. It's a collagen uptake lover. I mean, it's what everyone loves to take for their little spider veins, and what it's most probably commonly used for at high doses is for hemorrhoids, because it takes swollen veins and it reduces the inflammation.
Yeah, and if we look at how it kind of plays in with the systemic or proteolytic enzymes, I mean, inhibiting platelet aggregation. So again, it's going to thin the blood, improve circulation, and hence as a result of that, you're probably going to have less issues with any type of blood clots, which again could lead to strokes, heart attacks, things of that nature. So it's a nice ancillary piece, when it comes to the equation and the formula here.
I totally agree, and not because we are lacking and moving things in a forward direction. We are looking at replacing this, ladies and gentlemen, with reduced alpha lipoic acid, the king of all antioxidants, coming soon.
Yeah, huge difference. So you do your research on that. I go, normal, alpha lipoic acid or rutin. I mean, very, very inexpensive when you get into the real deal with
let's talk kilo price.
Yeah, then you're talking $700-800 a kilo. So again, the quality of the materials, is going to produce the result. So yeah, that'll be up and coming.
Absolutely, can't wait to get that going. All right, of course, we've already done an hour on this one, but what would our products be without Astrozyme?
Yeah, and with with this, well, I mean, this is the mineral blend we'll talk about first. I mean, that's super important. I mean, so the minerals with that we're using, obviously, we talked about this going back to all enzymes are tetrahedral, structures, right? Four-sided pyramids. This mineral blend mimics that. So they're tetrahedron structures. They contain, they're kind of like alumina silica cage, right? That's what the cage is made of. The body doesn't break that down. It's just it's a carrier, a vehicle for all the minerals that are held inside of that. It's like a sieve. So the body will utilize, it'll pull those out, utilize them, and then those things on the back end act as kind of almost like a sponge and suck up toxins and pull those out of the body. So they're absolutely almost as amazing as enzymes. There's a book I have that's probably a 1,500-page handbook, covers all the different industries and all the different uses for these minerals. So and medical industries are and the medical industry uses them extensively. So and there was also a very interesting study that was done and some theorizing saying that these minerals in some ways actually mimic the action of enzymes. And I'm like,
That's crazy.
wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
crazy.
So again, we could do a much more, in-depth.
Well, we already have.
Yeah. I mean, but just on the
Yeah,
minerals
yeah,
themselves, I mean,
probably.
super,
Yeah,
super,
we'll do one of those
super
too.
in
But
depth.
yeah,
Yeah.
another one. If ladies and gentlemen, if you're grooving what we're saying, definitely check out the Theraxym webinar Troy and I did.
Yes. Um, and then okay, so the inside of the supplement facts panels, those are the active ingredients that are found in Theraxym. Like when we look outside of that panel, we're going to see uh, two other ingredients. So one is rice extract. People always ask us, what is that? So it's
That's
the
a great point.
silica.
Yep.
It's the source of silica is what we use it for. So is there any rice in it? No. It's
Zero
just it's
rice
100.
protein. We choose
It's
to use this in lieu of magnesium stearate and silicon dioxide, which we're not going to get into right now, but look it up, ladies and gents. It's got potential issues, and we choose not to use it. And I've talked to the top immunologist in the entire country about this rice extract that could it possibly affect the most autoimmune rice patient? Absolutely not. So if you're autoimmune rice, if you're afraid of rice because your patients might be autoimmune, there's absolutely zero fear for you to give this product to them. It's better for them because you're not giving them magnesium stearate or silicon dioxide, or if they're taking a tablet, God forbid, what else is in it?
right, right. And we just looked at Wobenzyme, so they had veg stearate, which again, it's a stearate. So most companies and people that have done the research want to avoid that. So again, that's the source, but again, it's 100% silica. That's all it is, and it's a very small amount. It's 10 milligrams or less per capsule. The only other ingredient is obviously the capsule itself. So those are vegetable capsules, which consist of plant fiber and water. So
Yeah, as we're closing, good thing to mention, like our products are 100% vegan, 100% allergen free. We have a certificate of analysis available on any one of our products, and they are completely neutral to the immune system. So you're not stimulating a Th1 or a Th2 response with any product that we offer.
yeah, just one final note on the
Yeah,
capsule. So there is some debate, whether systemic enzymes can make it through the stomach, to the small intestine, which will then end up in the blood. So what we did just to kind of put closure or answer that question, with an emphatic answer, and that's the fact that all of our systemic enzymes are going to be in delayed release, acid resistant capsules. So again, so they'll make it through the stomach, open up, and then they'll do their work where they need to do their work.
absolutely. I mean, if anyone's listening and wants to go check out the nattokinase study on our website, 6,000 units of nattokinase were taken by that patient orally, and within like a couple hours, you could see the plaque being disintegrated by the dose that they took through their mouth. So I don't know how you argue with that.
Yeah.
All right, our website. Come check us out.
Yep. And we're adding to that weekly. So, our webinars, we were just at ShyCon 2017, going to be some great videos that are, being posted from that. Yeah, it's an exciting world. So again, I think what really gives us the edge in the marketplace is that this is all we do. We're not a be all end all company. I'm not interested in supplying 200 different products. I go, we know enzymes and we know enzymes better than anyone on the planet.
And that's what we want to people about.
And our products and our website and everything we do, including ourselves, right, reflect that.
Well, people say I don't look so bad, and I know you look pretty good, man. And I'm only 150. But seriously, I do have to throw a quick testimonial out. This is not a lie. And I was on my way to the Schiphol airport. I live in Amsterdam. And this cab driver, is getting ready to drop me off. And he's like, how does a man of your age not have any spots on his skin? And I'm like, seriously? He's like, yes, I've been trying to get rid of mine. He's like 22 years old or something. I'm like, okay, man. I'm like, I wasn't expecting this, but I'm like, well, I'll tell you why. It's because I take enzymes. He's like, please tell me about these enzymes. He's like, I've been using tea tree oil and all these other things. It's not working. I'm like, okay. So he ended up taking my email address, and I emailed him. So hopefully, if I see him out there again, he got on a good enzyme protocol. They work. I mean, and the whole point of what we're doing isn't to bash anyone, it's to educate. And we just want to be the enzyme guys, and we just want to teach you guys that, man, these things can greatly, 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 greatly reduce the amount of products you need to give your patients to get them well. And the reputation of enzymes is you have to take so many, but it's not true. And that's what Troy and I are trying to teach you guys. You don't have to take a bunch of them if they're made right and if they're formulated correctly. And that's why, this guy's climbed Mount Everest, and he spent 25 years understanding these things, and he dedicated his entire life to them. So, I mean, that's just what we're trying to do. We're just trying to help you guys. Just come with us. That's all we ask.
Yeah. And even with all that said, I appreciate that, but I know nothing about enzymes, so
Right.
I still tell
That's true.
people,
Yeah.
hey, just go back and do your own research, because you'll come to your own conclusion, and it'll be the fact that you go, there's nothing more powerful on the planet that's going to help you obtain, both quality and quantity of life.
If you didn't have an enzyme, you wouldn't be able to take like what, less than one step per 1 million years or something like that. How fun would that be? Wow.
Things would be pretty slow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you think they're slow already, wow.
Yeah. If you're upset because your internet is like, not like, bing, bing, bang, like you would definitely not
Yeah,
make it in the world of pre enzymes.
right. All right, Troy, always a pleasure, man. Let's conclude this webinar, and we hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope you guys got something from it, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.